Suppose I'd better clean my workbench a little bit before I get started. Close to midnight. Just need to say hello to everybody because I've started getting a whole bunch of messages about what's happened to you, Paul? You dead? I mean, as if I'm going to reply if I'm dead. And if I do, that would be quite the interesting thing alone on its own. Alright. Hopefully this is not a complete dud stream like some other people who've tried to do some streaming the last day or two. Oh, we've got a big fat PMIC chip in there. That's certainly not going to apply to this job. There you go. So supposedly this has a couple of keys not working on the keyboard. Now it could easily be ingress of liquid damage. They say that it hasn't been dropped and there hasn't been any liquid spilled that they're aware of, but of course the key is that sometimes these things do actually happen many months prior, and it's just simply over the enduring passing of time that eventually the keys start to fail. Or it could be a bit of corrosion on the keyboard. Looks like everybody's turning up. That's pretty good. That's a pretty immaculate looking 165 board, even without my glasses on. Let's get that important data drive out. So is this what, 1375? Don't want to lose that one. Generally a bad idea if you lose your customers' data drives. They'll tend to get a little bit upset and say harsh words to you, and probably tell a lot of people about that. And hello to everybody who's turning up. Certainly more than my usual turn up. Obviously a bit of absence makes the heart grow fonder, perhaps. Okay. Alright, the first thing I'll be looking for is corrosion under here, corrosion here. If we don't see anything, then we'll dig the board out. Let's see, is this going to switch over? Oh wow, shock horror, the equipment actually still works. That's kind of what I say when the lights go out. Okay, no corrosion on there, that looks pretty damn clean. There is some corrosion on the trackpad. Whether it's the issue or not, who knows. Alright, take the board out. If there's a little smidge of corrosion on the trackpad, it may, particularly there, it's a bit of an unusual place for it to be. There may be, and there's a bit of something on here. Alright, time to take it apart. It's a 165 board. 820 165. You can tell very quickly by the fact that it's got a short debugging connector, as opposed to the 3437, which has a wider debugging connector. Shadow Frost. Yes, I tend not to be too harsh. I can have my moments. I do believe one of my recent previous streams I did let loose quite a bit. It was a frustrating stream from what I can remember, although I cannot remember what it was about. I will not be surprised if this ultimately ends up as still a keyboard fault, but we'll see, we'll see. Hello, Wes. The odd F from Pedro says, yes, well, it was a little more than just the odd one. It was, I do believe there was like 5 or 6 in that particular stream. Though again, I cannot recall as to what the stream was about. Hey, I Star Tom. Pedro, you willingly walked into this industry in spite of warnings. And you even were so bold as to go, I'm only doing it as a hobby. Now, I'm afraid you must endure. Hey, you said that word twice now. Now you must suffer the cost of your lies. Hey, RTC. Let's have a look around. A1226. That will probably actually just get sent into the bin, or they'll just simply write return to sender. Or if you're really lucky, Wes, they will actually open that up, see it's a 1226, throw in a few more 1226 and say, we couldn't fix it for you, but here's a few free ones that we decided you deserve. I think that would be a fairly fitting response. Yeah, this is looking more and more like a keyboard fault. Not sure I'm in the mood to do a keyboard. 1534. That's a little blatant, isn't it? Horrendous things, those. I would say it really doesn't look like there's anything wrong with this board. I mean, yeah, sure, it's got some fluff and junk and, yeah, the normal stuff, but I'd say this board's okay. I'll put in a test chassis. One that hopefully will not try and burn up everything. I had a problem the other week or day, I can't remember now, where my 1466 chassis, oh that's right, it burnt my hand. I've actually now got a hard callus on my hand where that burn occurred. Let's see. Ah, come on, where are you? Sorry, I'm just going through my box of machines. What have we got? We've got about 3 or 4 A2179s. I should just throw those out. They're no good to anything. 34, 37. Crikey, what's going on here? Someone's stolen my 1466. Okay, I need to find a 1466 chassis or... It's a little weird not having one around. I think I've got a perfect one in another room. Be right back. Actually, it should be in this room, come to think of it. Everything is profoundly disorganized, I'm afraid. Just too many jobs coming in faster than I can. Yeah, I can get to the jobs fairly quickly when they turn up, but the problem becomes if they're not fixed in the first, say, the first 2 hours, that's the danger problem. Let's see, display works. What's that supposed to mean? Display works. Displayworks. It could mean anything. High grade 2017 chassis. Yeah. Yeah, if you can't get the job fixed in the first pass of the repair, then it becomes a real problem. Just let some cool air in. And by cool I mean probably 15 centigrade or something like that. Nothing too cool really. Working 3437. Oh well, that's okay. We can use 3437 chassis with the 165. That is one of the nice things about this particular model, you know, the 1466s from 2013 on, is that, you know, they all have their interchangeable. You can put the main board into either chassis and it's good. I do wish they had done. Someone took the keyboard flex. Who would do that to me? Keyboard flex. Alright, now I've got to find a keyboard flex. Bloody hell. Hey Jim Hook. Good to see you. Bit late for you, but good to see you. Is this for 1466 keyboard flex? Who knows? We'll plug it in and hope it is. At least when you're dealing with these boards, the worst you're going to do is destroy the board. But that, yeah, it sounds terrible, but it's actually not a major issue. Unlike the more modern machines where the data is integrated into the board, and if you destroy those, then yeah, you're gonna get a bit of a smack across the fingers, unquestionably. Okay, I might just plug the battery in simply because these things run frustratingly slow without the battery at times. Yeah, that's right, Pedro. The diamond dozen now. I mean, okay, a good 165, 1.8 gigahertz, 8 gig RAM. It's a little hard to come by at a dollar price, but yeah, they're still relatively cheap. It is getting to the point where there's a bit of a glut in the market now. One thing that is stumping me is the fact that it's actually still very hard to find parts for 820 1700 type boards and chassis, but they should be absolutely everywhere. Bong, here we go. Okay. So what we're going to do here is that this boot stick has my keyboard test program. Hey, what's going on there? That's not normal. What are you doing? Hello? Hey, creature. What the hell's bells just happened then? Okay, let's put the chipmunk in and see what it's doing. Chipmunk says the board is alive. It's kind of weird. Yeah, you see it's running. Oh. That's interesting. That took a lot longer than it should have. Yeah, Miles, it's charging the battery. Maybe the battery was completely flat. I don't know. Jangle stick, yeah, I mean there are ways to get away without using a chipmunk, but I gotta admit, it's hard to... I wouldn't want to have to replace it because I like the fact that it's just such a simple tool to use. Hey Thomas Lemmy. No, the battery's got 51% in it. Okay, so 3 amps is okay for that still. Hey Prolux, I've just been not doing any streams lately. There's just been too much going on. And as it is, I'm still not keeping up with the demand. Most of the time, like I said, I'll get a batch of machines in and I'll go through them all pretty quickly. But there's going to be a number of machines that are failures or that I can't immediately diagnose and fix. And as a consequence, yeah, this keyboard's working fine. I'm going to diagnose the situation as being a bad keyboard. Because if I look at the job data, going to come up. Let's see. Top row of letters minus peaky stop working mid-session. Top row of letters, so yeah, it's probably just going to be a bad keyboard. So what we'll do is we'll put the mainboard back in to the other chassis and see if it's also misbehaving there. Yeah, where's that fan spin you can hear is the power supply feeding this. Well, as it is possible, it could be the trackpad crud, yes. I suppose one way to test that is to migrate... We'll just swap the trackpads. Let's see if it is that. Jangle Stick, I haven't seen any other testers that have the integrated functionality like this, like, you know, showing up the 5 volt if it's faulty and things like that, or not showing it rather. A lot of the appeal of the Chipmunk is the fact that it's very quick and easy on the diagnosis side of things. You know, you don't have to interpret anything really. You just got to look, okay, 5 volts missing, but we've got power, or we're not getting a green blink, things like that. The simplicity in the tool itself is what makes it so appealing in many ways. I mean, yeah, I can get fancier tools I can plug into the USB port that have readouts and all sorts of information. But often when you take a simple tool that does the job and you improve, you know, when I say improve, you add things to it and such, you actually can detract from what made it appealing in the first place. Second system syndrome, or second version syndrome, basically. Hey Patrick, thank you for the 5. Steve K. Let's see, Creature. Best request I've seen. Local guy wanted a shop here to replace his keyboard. He spilled chemical dye on it so the G key was pink. Wow, hell no. I wouldn't rip out a keyboard for that. Even if the customer was going to pay for that, you know, which they obviously were, I sort of would have a disinclination to take on that job. Just on the worry that there is the very real chance that something else will come up, and then because you were the last one that touched it, you will get blamed for it, and you'd have to cover it. Yeah, it's just a red flag job to me. That would be a red flag job. Hey, Macbook Repairs. And when it comes to red flag jobs, I'm definitely kicking them out of the queue very quickly these days, because I just don't have the room in the queue for those sort of jobs. One of the other frustrating things that keeps coming up at the moment too are the jobs with secondary faults. Like, you'll fix the main fault, like the board doesn't work, you'll fix that, you'll get it up and running, and then you find out that a keyboard doesn't fully work, or the screen has a crack in it, or something like that. And unfortunately, it can be a real bit of a trick to try and get the customer to go ahead with the job, particularly because most of the time you're pricing on about 1/3 the cost of the system, roughly. And when you push beyond that, like say you've got to get a new screen, and all of a sudden it becomes almost as expensive as a new machine. So you're sort of stuck in a nasty situation where you're not going to get paid for your work, even though you did it, and you just don't know what to do. Repairing a hinge on a laptop, and the customer comes back and the other hinge is broken. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes, yeah. Crikey, who got the double bypass? That's some serious work on your chest. Ah, Bilbas. Little Northern. Oh, you had the double coronary bypass done. Crikey. Jeez, mate. That's it's a lot of pounding on the chest. Oh, tracer die for ATM money. Haha. Yeah. Arnold, it didn't seem to be slow with the boot this time. Oh, right, it's got no fan. I think it might be because it doesn't have the fan installed, so the sensors are going to be a little bit ticked off. Okay, let's see how we go. Numbers are working. Yeah, I think some of those letters did not come up. Yeah, there you go. You can see those ones failed the testing. Alright, so now that we've proven that it is faulty in this chassis, we've got to determine whether it's trackpad or whether it's keyboard. Hey, Q's. No, the ribbon's clean. We got a little bit of corrosion on the trackpad, so in some ways I'm kind of hoping it's going to be that. Because at least replacing trackpads in these is somewhat trivial. Oh, come along now. No, Arnold, no, the board worked fine in the other chassis. I put it back into this chassis, its original chassis. The battery's actually on the way out too. I just noticed it's starting to get that dimple pattern. And this is what I'm talking about with regards to secondary faults. It comes in for a keyboard issue and the battery's got dimples on it, which means it's going to need a replacement. Did I get my thermal paste? Nope, I did not. Tim's probably just very busy at the moment, and he knows that as much as he knows I'm very busy, so he knows sending me thermal paste is probably going to be a big fat waste of time, because he's going to want some people to, give it a review and stuff like that. And I'm the worst person in the world to send stuff to, quite frankly. If you send me stuff, I will almost 99% likely not say a damn thing about it. Or, yeah, that's actually more likely. It's just, I'm going to forget. Or I'm not going to say enough about it, or, yeah. So, Tim's been smart, and he's just sort of like leaving me off that list. Miles, funnily enough, I don't mind doing the 1466 keyboards. I mean, I'd rather not, but I don't mind. Oh, yeah, actually, I swear I saw a discoloration on the pins there. Now, I better write on here who owns this. 1375. The solar panels are going well. We're doing about 31 kilowatt hour a day at the moment, which isn't too bad. It's a 6.6 system. Like I said, there is this corrosion here. But yeah, no dramas really with the solar at all. Does its thing. Gets up and starts working earlier than I do each morning. The problem I have with this bit of corrosion here is that really looks more like some sort of general pull-up line or something like that. It doesn't really seem to be part of the keyboard matrix assembly. There is a little bit of a dimple on that Broadcom chip though. I'm not sure if that mark there is an internal defect coming out or an external scratch. Anyway, I'll put my donor board, not donor board, my test chassis one in there and see how that goes. Just a process of elimination. Hello JCT and hello Nick Facey. Now, of course, my personal one here is in a pretty bad state, but it does still work. Honestly, I don't know who came up with the idea to put this flex they fold over this keyboard flex. And so it's a very strange way of locking it back in. Okay. Now I'm going to mark this so that I know it's mine. Let's civil up. Oh, Miles, you're talking about on those newer ones where people are... I'm getting them coming in where people have tried to bend the board out of the chassis. Yeah, it's like, why did you do that? And that's both to Apple and the so-called techs that tried to release the circuit board. Okay, I think that's in. I gotta say, having the 3mm driver now, that makes things so much easier. It's also good for those nuts that are on the back of the keyboard that the circuit boards are sometimes held down with. It will put those on and off properly. Yeah, we'll stick the fan in just to shut up the sensor complaints. It's okay, Steve. I thought I saw you say hello. Okay, we're not plugging the camera in. That will cause its own complaints, but yeah. Oh, someone didn't put the battery screw in. The only reason why I put a battery screw in is because it's a bit shocking when you flip the keyboard section back down and your battery isn't screwed in. It flops out and onto your desk and creates a whole lot of noise. Pedro, what? You're just copying everything I'm doing, aren't you? But I'm glad you got it. It does make things easier. The only thing I've had to do with the driver is I end up having to stuff a little bit of paper into the end so that, is just a little bit too deep by default. So I stuffed a little piece of paper into the end of it. Where's now he's going to turn up. Hey there, Mark 3186. Alright. Looks like it could still be keyboard. Yeah, still keyboard. Alright, so it looks like bad keyboard. Hey, Keith McDermott. As I was saying, when I was looking at the damage on that trackpad, it just didn't look like the sort of damage that would cause a row-specific failure. If it had caused damage, it's the sort of place that would perhaps just cause the keyboard not to function at all. Like if it was one of maybe the pull-up lines or something like that. Yeah, for the SPI comms, etc. But nah. So this is a keyboard replacement. Quite frankly, I might as well just get it done. And as for the trackpad, what I'll do is I'll just clean up that little bit of corrosion, but it's obviously not anything too serious. The best bit is going to be when I've replaced the keyboard and it still misbehaves. Hey Joho. By the way, if I could get Shazzy's pre-built decks for this at a reasonable price, then I probably would go that route. But yeah, I really cannot get them at a reasonable price, let alone even really find them lately. No, I'm just going to take the screen off. I know you don't have to take the screen off, but quite frankly, even though these are not the most expensive screens, I really would rather spend the extra 5 minutes avoiding having to later on tell the customer, well, you get a free screen because I kind of broke your previous one. And it would be slightly frustrating on the fact too that their screen has a great big dent in it. So they would end up with a better screen at no cost. And I simply cannot abide that. Hello, Jose. Yes, it has been some time. I sort of apologise for that, but I've just been absolutely flat chat. Just have to be difficult, don't you? Need a little bit of warmth just to loosen up that speaker a bit. Piper, it's working well. I think we're almost at the 1 megawatt generated now. Where's my specialized mass driver? Ah, there you are. Excuse me. Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're just using a bit of heat to loosen up the backlight layer so that we can get that off and reuse it. You can buy the backlight layers, they are available, but I prefer to just, there's no reason you can't reuse it. Tony W, no, we bought the system outright, so we don't owe the... Yeah, we do whatever we want with that power. We get a pretty terrible feed-in rate anyway. I think we're only getting about not even 7 Australian cents per kilowatt hour, so it's in our best interest to make sure we actually use as much of our generated power as possible. Alright. Oops. It's interesting, this backlight layer is actually surprisingly well stuck down. It just means I'm going to have to move my mass a little closer in and go for some horizontal heating. Basically what it is there's... Ow! It's just like sticky tape that's holding it onto the metal keyboard. There we go. And it just wants to have a little bit of heat to help it come off. You don't want to go yanking it too hard. These actually normally come up a lot easier. I think this must be a fairly new machine, so the adhesive is still quite effective. Alright. Trying to see if I can see any signs of liquid damage or some kind of ingress here. So we're looking for this row. I mean, there's random fluff in there, but not. That's not really anything that would typically kill board. A keyboard, that is. There's a little bit of liquid there. Yeah, actually. I think, maybe. Yeah. That looks like liquid to me. That there. Some trapped ants. Yeah, it looks like there's liquid and it got in on the spacebar, which would match up with the liquid we saw on the trackpad. Do you know whether or not mid-2012 1278 still holds the record as long as production MacBook? Oh, no idea, to be honest. No idea. That is not the sort of information that I keep in my cranium, I'm sorry. I'm really not one of those kind of people that have the capacity to remember such things, or know about it, or even bother to, for that matter, I must say. Right, as we now begin the gloriously arduous process of replacing the keyboard. Hell, just getting all the perimeter screws out is fun enough, and then we of course have to clear the rivets after we yank it out, and then we have to reassemble it all with extra screws, cutting our own threads into where the rivets were. Good thing you don't have to tap and die this stuff. That would be you just wouldn't do it. Sonic clean the keyboard. No, unfortunately, unless you start with a pristine ultrasonic solution, then ultimately you're still going to end up with junk getting into the keyboard. I know some people, I've seen some people who will wash the keyboard, and it does work for a little while, but it's still, in the end, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to end up with either more corrosion popping up or something like that. I mean, there's almost as much work in doing that as it is just to rip this keyboard out. Hey, Rainswell. Oh man, I'm staying up a little later than I should. I've been doing pretty good and going to bed a bit earlier lately. But this is the trouble when you start live streaming. All that just goes to hell. Alright. Okay, so now we've got to get this keyboard out without slicing our fingers to death. That's always the fun part. And without damaging the chassis. Everybody's got their own technique for this stuff. Yeah, this one's a toughie. This one's leaving about 80% of the rivets in it, unfortunately. I have found that a lot of the newer ones do seem to be better at leaving rivets. Yeah, pretty much all of the rivets have stayed in. Son of a bitch. That's annoying. Oh, we left a screw in there. That's bad. I should just sell these keycaps on eBay for $17 a piece. I've seen people doing that sort of stuff. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I've never had to buy one myself, but I just sort of, you see them on the market and you kind of go, wow. People who actually have to take that route, that's really unfortunate. Hey, Rob Brown. Alright, so, yeah, I can definitely, you can see this brown mark here. And then there's some over here. So, yeah, definitely this has had liquid ingress at some point. Interestingly enough, the liquid marker did not go off. But that is of no great surprise to anybody who works on these machines. So how are we going for focus there? I find I have to twist them. You got to grab them hard, twist them, then tilt out, and they come out. I find if you try to just do it without the twist, there's a fairly reasonable probability that they will actually just snap off. And of course the other element involved in doing this is knowing just how much to squeeze on the rivet. Because if you squeeze too much, you'll shear the head clean off. If you don't squeeze enough, it won't come up with the, when you tilt the clippers. So yeah, it's a bit of a practiced art, I suppose. Yeah, Wes, I'm not sure whether it was coffee or Coke. Probably coffee. I don't know. I should rub some onto a earbud or Q-tip, whatever you want to call them, and then taste it. So I rub it all over my tongue and see what it tastes like. And as usual, Pedro goes straight to the gutter. Well, I got lucky then. That one actually very nearly sheared the head off. But I think it was one of the ones that it was already almost out, so thankfully it just obliged. And in 7 Days to Die news, I have discovered the fun of doing jobs, as in quests, and there's some terrifying quests though. Like I thought a nice simple one, a tier 4, go off and make, what do you call it, go see another trader, except this trader was in like the nuclear wastelands. Trying to get to the trader, crikey, that was a nightmare. It's probably harder than any of the other quests I did. It was like everything was out there in those nuclear wastelands, especially those zombie bears. Anyway, I've got a nice pump action shotgun now, so that makes things a little easier when it comes to dealing with things I don't want to deal with. See, Diablo 4 announcement this week. I didn't, but I have been aware of well, actually, no. The last Diablo thing I was aware of was the remake or reimaging of the original Diablo 2, which I still haven't got around to. Mostly because the gaming setup we have is just with a like PlayStation type controller and on the TV, whereas playing things like Diablo 2, you really got to be, in my opinion, well, I would prefer to be using the keyboard and mouse as per original. Have you got a small burr on the lower? Probably. I think it's just it's the offset, they're not matching up properly. I notice that every now and then it will cut into the, into the aluminium of the keyboard frame, but it's not a big issue. But yeah, it's... Ach, niemand. I'm totally going to blame Tony W for that one. Distracting me, trying to have to explain my equipment. Come on, there we go. Whew. Tony gets to live another day. It was a close one, Tony. You almost ended up with some cement shoes in the bay. And you can see, yeah, this is the liquid damage. Probably the one that caused the failure of the row. Okay, these are the tricky situations where you got these spigots, divot, or whatever. And you got to try and... There we go, got it out. This keyboard is probably the one with the least number of successful extractions on the keyboard tear out. I don't think I've ever had one where I essentially had to do every single one. I live by numerous water sources. Not that I would be so foolish as to do such things in my own backyard. That's one of the first rules you learn. You think this is slow and boring? Wait till I've actually got to put the screws back in. This is why, if you do have access to good quality replacement top decks, then it's a lot more favourable. There we go, got that one out. No, Miles, I just read a fair bit. Cough, cough. I'm reciting other people's experiences and what they've learned. Just using my finger to see if I have missed any, like that one. And that one. Crikey, how many do I have to miss? Okay. Actually, I should immediately put that stuff into the bin. Along with the keyboard. Right, I guess I better go find a keyboard. Oh, hey Meow, what you doing in here, girl? You don't normally hang around here. $13.98. Crikey, I better have a 1466. I mean, I've got so many spare keyboards here. One of them's got to be a 1466. $13.98, $15.02, $13.90. Wait, $13.69. That sounds like a 1466. Yeah, I'm pretty sure $13.69 is actually the 1466. Hey, Mama, what you doing? You okay? The next great question is, where are my keyboard screws? Ah, found them. Oh, that's rare. Rare for me to find my keyboard screws straight away. Yeah, I'm 99.2% sure this is, yeah. I don't know why they don't mark them as, you know, slash 1466 or anything like that, but they don't, so. Yeah, it's just marked as cap 1369. Oh, Milo's caused a great deal of fun and games around here when it's these jumping antics. Great deal of fun and games. We actually ended up, there was a dividing gate that we had out the back, and we had the night pen, and we had to take it away. We had to take the dividing fence away because it gave him a route up to the roof. And it's really frustrating because he just has not been a cat who wanted to jump out anywhere, and then all of a sudden he just got the taste for it. And they're 4 years old, whereas Loki, which is his brother, he had the taste for it as a 1 year old, that sort of thing, and yeah, you sort of expect that. But yeah, to have Milo start doing it all of a sudden out of the blue, it was like, what's going on here, you know? Right, we're putting in these screws in here. They're our perimeter screws, so we'll put those in. We'll try and do a moderately balanced screw down pattern. We did end up buying a second cat tree of like the first one that we had. These are big cat trees, by the way. They're like, if you online, they're about $650. They extend up to a height beyond what you normally. You have to actually get up on a stool to see into the sleeping quarters and things like that. So they do like them for the fact that it gives them that superiority height. But we are well behind on a lot of our projects. It just seems like weeks and days fly by and we're just not getting things done. Myself included with work, so it's getting a little bit tedious. Yeah, yeah, Miles, they do like to do that. Like the foster cats that we have, they, for the most part, sleep and live in the roof still. We need to fix that up, but again, like I said, there's just so many things I'm having to juggle right now, and they're just going to have to stay up. Yeah, they go up there as soon as they're scared or anything like that, and that's fine. Okay, so just making sure the alignment wasn't too far off on this. That's kind of weird. That seems wrong. Something's not right there. See how they're recessed back? Something's not right there. What's going on? Fucking mongrels. Something's wrong with that key area. Miles, I've had no time whatsoever to touch that thing. Other than the original spin up, I haven't done a damn thing with it. So, let's see. Okay, so you can see the mechanisms in there. What's going on here? Can see it there. That one there's not doing its job. There's no spring back. That's got a spring back. This one doesn't spring back. Fucking hell. No, there's no spring back on it. The actual key itself is dodgy. I mean, I do have another one of these keyboards in stock, thankfully, but that's just so typical. Imagine if I'd gone through and done all the screws and then found that. I do agree, it was where that dent / issue was, but I don't think it's that. We'll find out when I take it off, and if it springs back to normal, then we'll know we've got a chassis interference issue. But I have a feeling it's just the keyboard itself. The worst thing is I have... Who knows how old this keyboard is in terms of stock. It's certainly going to be more than 12 months old now, I know that much. Yeah, they're both... There's no spring action. It's a dodgy keyboard. Indeed, JCT. Ach, niemand. Dit is bij kak. Oh, no. Yeah, I know. You're waking mummy up. What are you doing? Hmm? You've been asleep all evening, now you want to play. I can't let you in there. Come on, let's get you some biscuits. Oh, there, my repair. Alright, okay, so we've got another one here. You ever noticed that these sort of things happen usually at the most inopportune times? Like typically with iPhone screen repairs, I often find is that you'll be going flat out for the day and you're desperately just trying to get the jobs done and whatnot. And that's the day when you find out that your stock of whatever model that happens to be what everybody wants that day, or your last one that you have, it's a dodgy one, and the customer happens to be someone who really has to have it fixed now, or you can't contact them in time to let them know, you know what, this isn't going to work out, you need to go find another place to get it fixed. Yeah, it's usually the way it works. Tony, I sincerely hope that is not the case. Okay, there's definitely no bend up of the metal in the corner here. We actually now keep them locked inside through the whole night, whereas before we used to let them go into the night enclosure, the night pen, because the night pen is secure away from the outer limits of the property and things like that. But there's just been too many things going on, and we now have the full access to the whole house, so they can tolerate just being inside. I mean, it's about 240 square meters of area inside this house, and there's lots of little rooms, and yeah, it's an interesting sort of place, and they can run and chase each other and all that sort of stuff until we get up in the morning. I did check the springy first. These are just depressed because they haven't been told nice things yet. None of them look like as soon as I screw them in, they're going to pop up fine. The only trouble is when you do the keyboards like this, is that you're kind of not really... Oh, hey babe.
Milo's outside.
He's outside.
I let him out.
Oh, alright. Oh dear, looks like he woke up, Alita. And she's let him outside, which means now I have to make sure that he doesn't get up to any strife. It means I may have to finish this stream once I've done the perimeter screws and go supervise outside, which means we won't get to see the full thing, but I'll see if I can maybe run the logic board just to validate that it's working. It's surprising how many screws there are just to get around the outside of this keyboard. Ever thought of... No, it's... most of the time it's not the concern about them getting out, it's more the concern about what can get in. Like, be it other cats off the roof, pythons going through the fence, because our fence is a mesh fence and it's a I think it's a 50 by 75 or 2 by 3 inch mesh size, which is great. You know, it stops pretty much everything except kittens coming in and out. The ideal thing we would have is a citadel and a moat around the whole house. I'm just not that rich though. Not forgetting the back. No, the backlight goes on afterwards. The backlight is just stuck on with tape, basically two-sided tape. It's not even required to do the test. Well, in some ways it kind of is, I suppose, because it provides a insulation against the logic board shorting out. Fortunately, Miles, fortunately the kangaroos around here, they're pretty happy with, they've got a good supply of grass outside of the property. So they don't tend to come in. And while they can scale it, it's still a pretty decent jump for them to get over a 1.8, 2 meter size mesh fence. Like I said, they can potentially do it, but I'm hoping they don't. Pythons are a pretty serious problem around here. We know that, well, okay, we don't know, but we're fairly sure that Micro had a run-in with a python when he was younger, which is why he now has snake fever. Normal snakes don't bother them, but yeah, there's a thing about pythons with their slow sort of movements and then their strike and grapple. It definitely wigs out animals. Whereas fast-moving snakes, it just tends to excite the cats more than anything else. I'm using a special, this is a PH000J driver from Wera, and it's the flat top one. That is the, it's a Philips, it's the same, basically the same size Philips as the PH00, which is this one, 00J versus the 000J, but they've taken the top, so it doesn't go to a point, it's a, it's short and flat. But it does mean you can get a little bit more bite on a lot of these screws. But you do have to be quite perpendicular about, you know, when you're driving on them. Hey, Junjin Sipian. Oh, thank you. I find if you backspin these screws a little bit, like just half a turn of backspin or something like that, it does usually help them find their way in, self-tap. I suppose it sort of provides, it creates a little bit of a countersink on the aluminium chassis. Sounds like a JIS. Well, it's sold as a PH, so that would infer they think it's a Philips, but I'll show it under the microscope. But yeah, if you look it up, it will be the Wera PH000J, These are the 132 length drive. Mind you, they don't usually show pictures of the tip. I don't know why, but they just assume everybody knows what they're getting into, what they're buying. Which is why it caught me off guard when I received it and I thought it was actually a broken one. But it turns out it's actually by design. Come on, man. I'm starting to get impatient. Still got another 50 or 60 to go. But I won't be doing them tonight. It's looking like it's doing the job. So I'll just show that comparison between the two tips, and then I'm going to go out of here and go watch Micro. Okay. So on the left is the PH00, and on the right is the PH000. And as you can see, really, they're basically the same tip. Okay, this has got a narrower shaft on it, but essentially they're the same. But that, like I said, has a flat top nose compared to the 00. Alright then, well, I'm out of here for tonight. It's already 12:30, which is actually pretty late for me now. So I'm sorry we didn't get to finish this, but at least you got to see that I'm still alive and kicking. Hello Ian, goodbye Ian, I'm sorry Ian, I'm finishing up now already. So I'm out of here. I don't know when I'll be broadcasting again. There's a massive backlog I've got here. Like we're talking, easily 30-40 machines that are waiting for some sort of fix. They're machines that came in, tried to fix them, they didn't get fixed on the first pass, so now they're just sort of sitting around waiting for me to turn on my brains and try and fix them, which the brains seem to be in fairly short supply. Alright, I'm out of here. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time, whenever that may be. Until then, you'll take care. I'll catch you later.